To jumpstart our class connections for this year and learn about how math and science are used in careers around the world, we invited various professionals into the classroom through Google Hangouts and Skypes. Let's see what happened. Science and math can definitely be found in computer programming.
Practically what we do. So let's do desktop, and we'll start screen sharing, and we'll see if we can roll with this.
Do you see yourself?
So, can you see this?
Yep.
Do like this. 1 up to 3. Alright. Now you saw me just type a bunch of things right here, and then you saw 3 answers.
Wow.
So what did it do? What did that thing do?
You're math.
So, how is it science and math? Well, it's math because that programming language, and science because it's a scientific method. I have to say, I have a theory for what's going to happen. For example, when I put up that code, you have a theory of what's going to do. And then we test it out. We hit the button, right? And see what it does. And then, did it work? Did it not work? Do I have to adjust my theory? Do I have to adjust what I did, right? My test. And so if it worked, then awesome. I've kind of confirmed what my theory is, and I keep working at it to try and figure out if this is a hard and fast rule. That's pretty much what I do inside of companies too. They say, this thing doesn't work. I want this to do this. And I say, oh, okay, well, I have an idea. I have a theory that if we did this, well, you would all of a sudden get some magical Starbucks coffee. Yeah. And then figuring it out. And math is a lot of, like, not only doing the programming language and adding and subtracting, multiplication and stuff like that, but then, you know, there's real world things too. I have to travel. I have to make sure I get places on time. I have to spend money. I have a budget that I have to stick with. It's a lot like...
Being a director of technology in Huron means you have to know some science and math.
We have 3 students that are in charge of directing the call today, so can I just go ahead and throw it over to them?
Absolutely.
Hi. Will you share what your job is?
I am the Director of IT for Huron City Schools.
And how do you have science and maybe math in your day?
So technology is a type of science, I guess. So there's several different things that I do, whether it's diagnostic, where I use problem-solving skills to figure out issues, or creating software, like on the website, creating different types of software, so coding, programming, that kind of thing. Math is very heavy in software development. So I would say that that basically is my life, is math and science. To be specific, the actual science, from projectors and lamps and how light gets there to how with our smart boards, how the electricity flows, how the data flows. I'm responsible for that, both fixing and installing new technology.
Yeah, that's fine.
What happens when all the power goes out?
Well, a lot of the most critical computers in our district, they do have battery backup, so they'll run for a little while even with the power going out. I will tell you, blackouts are better for technology than, are you familiar with the term brownout? You ever have the lights just flicker a little bit? Maybe the power doesn't go off, but they flicker? That actually hurts technology a lot more than just the power going out. So the power going out, I'm okay with. We can, come back from that. But when it has those little spikes, those are the ones that really cause us grief and give us issues.
Thank you.
Yep.
That was a great question, and think about it. It led to something else, finding out about brownouts and blackouts.
Thank you for sharing your time.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, say bye, guys.
Bye.
Is science and math used at a veterinary clinic? Absolutely. Our Skype call with Firelands Animal Hospital had a few technical difficulties with sound, but Mr. Lacrosse, the vet technician there, was able to share with us how Back to the Wild had a bald eagle in the clinic to test for West Nile virus. We were able to look at the bald eagle on the examination table, and then we were able to see the bald eagle's x-rays on the computer. And Dr. Marianne Soha was able to tell us a little bit about what we were looking at. One of the coolest parts about seeing the bald eagle was when they held the bald eagle up for us and it opened up its wings so we could see just how gigantic its wingspan was. Even gave us a little bit of a scare flapping its wings. Then Mr. Lacrosse took us to the back where science and technology meet at the clinic. We were able to look at the centrifuge, and he explained how blood and urine samples were spun, and then the resulting matter was put onto the microscope. They were even clever enough at the clinic to go ahead and put the phone camera down on the microscope so we could get a view of some of the red blood cells.
Here's a little cat.
Oh, do you see the little?
Okay, we had a question. What kind of cat is that? Was just asked.
Just a domestic short hair.
Does that mean anything to you?
And then they're going to soak the paw to try to clean it, which may be a big task here. It all depends on if the cat cooperates with us. And this is Dr. Lisa.
Say hi, guys.
Hi.
And I guess you guys didn't meet Anne Marie yesterday. That was a different class. This is Anne Marie.
Okay, can you take one more question?
Sure, one more.
Okay, go for it.
Have you ever had a surgery on a hamster?
Not that I know of. Not since I've been here.
All right.
Say hi to Dr. Mary Ann and Teresa.
All right, thank you again.
All right, well, let's see you later. You guys have a good day.
All right.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi.
Supercomputers, that just sounds like science and math.
First, I'll give you my job title. I'm technically a PhD student at the Illinois Institute of Technology. So it's in downtown Chicago. It's just south of downtown. And so I take science classes at the Illinois Institute of Technology, and I'm working on my PhD. So someday, hopefully, it will be doctor credit. But I'm not going to be a medical doctor. I'm a science doctor in computer technology. So I use science every day. The field that I work in is called supercomputing. So I'm sure a lot of you are using iPads and laptops. Yeah?
Yeah. Answer.
So now imagine if you had thousands and tens of thousands of those iPads and laptops hooked up together. That would be a really fast computer, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm working on is trying to make those machines faster. So we identify problems. Sometimes software will run slowly on those machines. So we run a lot of tests. We have to try, we have many different supercomputers, if you can believe it, for millions of dollars. And we try running applications, software, on those different machines. And sometimes they work great. And sometimes we have to go back to the scientific method and say, why didn't things work like we expected? And we change our tests, and we run it again. And we repeat until we get a solution that we like. So I wish I could have done the chat with one behind me. They take up, in the building that I'm in, the entire basement of this building. And so we have, they're big, they look like refrigerator cabinets. And maybe I can send your class a link after our chat, and you can see a picture of the supercomputer in this building. So we're gonna put hundreds of these tubes, we're gonna lay them over the laptop, and maybe that doesn't sound like it's gonna work. So if your computer gets hot, like the fan will spin and it starts making loud noises, right? But if you put a lot of these tubes right next to the computer, it'll actually cool it down. And so what we do is we do something like that. So no water touches the computer because that would conduct, right? And you don't want that. So instead the tube separates the water from the computer hardware. Good question.
Yeah, and we're actually, later on in the year, we talk about thermal energy, and we talk about how thermal energy transfers from the warmer object to the cooler object. So what's going to be
That's exactly what we're doing, yeah.
what's the warmer object in the system that he's talking about? The
computer.
and the cooler would be
The
tube of water. So it makes sense. It'll transfer that energy away. Blair, did you have a question?
Yes.
Go for it.
If you, at first, did you know the computers were gonna get hot, so you knew that you had to put the tubes on them?
That's a good question. So supercomputing is a field of computer science. And supercomputing has been around for a long time. And every year, they try and build a new supercomputer that's faster. And a lot of different countries are doing this. Countries like China and Germany. Everyone wants it's like having the fastest roller coaster, right? You want the fastest supercomputer so you can do the latest and greatest science.
How does a school principal use math and science? Thank you, Ms. Von Thron, for sharing.
This is a hard one, because often you do these things and you don't even realize that you're using science and math. Science and math can be real sneaky, because when you're reading all day, you realize you're using your reading skills, but math and science, they slip right in there. One thing that I do is the scientific method, which, who out there can tell me what the scientific method is? Who remembers? Right now you have this first step. It's a problem.
Wow.
So what's the problem? What's the question? That's the first step of the scientific method. So we're hoping that this will work. Right now, we don't have the data to analyze, but today she was going to try it. So after school today, I'll talk to her and see if it worked. And if it doesn't work, we'll try something else.
All right. And Ms. Von Thron used some really cool science words there in the last part. Did you hear them? What was one of them?
Data and analyze.
Data and analyze. So even just figuring out a solution to a problem with students, you have data, you have to analyze it, you have to see if it's the right answer, and then work again. Awesome. Very cool. Good words, Ms. Von Thron.
Well, thank you. Oh, and
Anything
I can tell you, let me use the math one. Let me tell you about the math real
Good.
quick. So for me, the big thing is, and this will be the same for Mr. Dowdy, we have to make sure that when we're assigning children to classes or students to classes that we have a balance in the different classrooms. And so that's one of the things that I use a lot of math with, making sure, one, that I have enough students to fill up the classrooms, because I don't want to have too many teachers and not enough students. And then also, I don't want to have too many students and not enough teachers, which would be the opposite of that. But then, in addition to that, I have to make sure that I balance the classes. We can't have one class with all girls or all boys or all kids that go to different classes. We have to kind of balance everything.
Okay, well, thank you so much. We don't want to take up too much more of your time, but this was perfect introduction to Skype and how to talk and respond, and we appreciate this. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Anytime. Tell everybody I said hello, and anytime you need anything, let me know.
Okay.
Bye, Ms.
Thank
Von
you.
Thron.
Bye.
One final thank you to all of our guest speakers today. We appreciate our first class connection.